Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Everything Seaplace. My name is Mike Renick. I am your host for this video. We've got some great news to answer some of your questions about insurance. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. My guest today is Mr. Kirk Baker. Kurt, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to put him on the spot right up front. Kurt, the largest insurance reduction we have coming at us is because of the diligent work done by Kurt. And what I wanted to do is have him share a little bit. But he got a hold of this project. He wouldn't let go until it was done, and he brought us over the finish line. So everyone is asking me about building classifications, and I talk about there's cement buildings and there's green buildings and there's stuff like that. But let's turn it over to you. Go share a little bit about what you went through here.
Well, yeah, sure. So when when I got elected last March and kind of took over building committee activities, of course the roofing project was well underway. So it was a deep dive crash course and kind of our building construction focus on the roofs. And we got that done in time. Of course, that was really good because we got all the documents we needed into Brown & Brown to present to citizens. And we all were very happy with the outcome. All our buildings were covered by citizens, and we saw a nice reduction from what we had budgeted because we got the two mid-rise buildings in with citizens. So, in the course of that, we learned a lot about at least I learned a lot about how our buildings are constructed. They're concrete masonry unit, steel reinforced. It's pretty good construction. So that gave us in some buildings a good rating with citizens. So after August, had a big sigh of relief, and then we had opportunity to really delve into the declarations. So the declarations, about a 35-page set of documents from citizens, and we did some analysis, and we noticed kind of reverse engineered how citizens calculates the premium. And it's basically a percentage of the total replacement cost for the building. And we noticed that some buildings were rated, the construction rating using the term wind resistive, and some were rated as masonry. And there was a pretty big difference in the premium as a percent of the total replacement cost. So that's when we really started looking into making sure we understood exactly our building's construction, specifically the roofs. And so we were quizzing Brown & Brown, and we learned about, they sent us some excerpts from the Citizens Policy Manual that talked about what they call the wood roof rule. So we're all familiar with our buildings and the orange tile features we have.
That's the key right there.
Yeah.
Our buildings are all cement roofs, but under the orange tile, things are a little bit different.
That's exactly correct. So when the two mid-rise buildings were rated wind resistive, because ourselves and Brown & Brown were able to convince citizens that the entire roof was the lightweight concrete slab, and that the wood-framed structures supporting the tile were merely aesthetic, that the underlying roof was actually the concrete. So they were given a good wind-resistive rating. So then we started looking at the other garden buildings and realized that G5 and G8 were similar to the mid-rise buildings in that the entire roof is the lightweight concrete slab, and all the orange tile slope features you see are on wood frames, but those are sitting on top of the concrete slab.
So there's no living space underneath those.
Right. There's no living space. Mike Angers calls it AC, so the air-conditioned space.
Okay.
And then, with further investigation with Siebert, our architects, we realized that G7 was the same. And then we were able to get that documentation together. We had a nice letter from Siebert, kind of an official architect finding of what our point was to citizens. So I think that helped give Mike Angers the documentation he needed to persuade citizens to revised the ratings for G5, 7, and 8.
So, in a summary, those buildings were rated incorrectly, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
by citizens' policy. Yeah, they looked at the buildings and they saw, oh, there's some of the roof system is tile on wood trusses, wood frame, so we're going to invoke the wood roof rule, and they assigned them masonry. But we were able to give them the evidence that convinced them that those were just kind of aesthetic features, and the actual roof, overall the living space, was the lightweight concrete slab.
In this effort to go through all that, took a long time, took a lot of effort on your part. What was the resulting savings from this?
It was in the neighborhood of between $600,000 and $700,000. I can't remember the exact
No,
number.
you're right. And I wanted you to share that number because this is your good news story. So just stepping back for just a second, a couple years ago, we were at about $730,000 a year for insurance at Seaplace. The year after that, it jumped to 3.4 with the challenge the roofs weren't done, and M1 and M2 actually had to be outsourced outside of the United States. When this board came in, when Kurt and I were elected back to the board, the roof project was started, but this board brought it to the finish line. That right there netted up about a $400,000 savings over the 3.4. So we came in at 3. Good news story. And we refunded that money back to the owners. But we didn't stop. Kurt grabbed a hold of this thing. He learned about the different classifications. Correct me if I'm wrong, if a little tiny bit, that's a technical term, if a little tiny bit of the building has a wood roof over a living space, that lowers the classification for the entire roof. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Like 5%, 2%, whatever. So anyway, Kirk got a hold of this, and we learned through his efforts that many of these orange tile slopes that you see on our buildings are not over living spaces. Everything over a living space is cement. So because of that, you drove another $600,000 to $700,000 in savings on this kind of stuff.
Yes.
Now, I'm asked all the time, what are the classifications? And I don't know the names off the top of your head. Is there like 3 different classifications?
There's 4.
4.
From best to worst. So the best is what they call wind resistive. And then they have the next category, semi-wind resistive. Then masonry. And the least best is frame. It's what they call frame or wood frame.
So it was, you're learning about these efforts and digging deeper, getting the technical folks, the architects involved, the engineers and stuff like that drove this. But the good news is, and this is how I personally believe how well the board is working together, we're not done. Alan Zuckerman, who's now taking this and is looking at sitting down with the insurance company and talking about deductibles. So that reduction, by the way, of $1 million, no lowering of insurance coverage whatsoever, none whatsoever, not a penny change for that. Now we're looking at deductibles. Is there some things that make sense to maybe up the deductible a little bit? Like when we buy car insurance, your deductible on comprehensive, which is glass, might be different than on collision. So we're asking that question here. Does it make any sense? And if Alan's team is able to uncover some things, and Kurt will be involved in this, it might make sense to ask the insurance company to look, or insurance committee to look at it, and then bring recommendations back to the board. So we haven't stopped. This is just the beginning of a journey with good news story, but I want to be really clear about this. These savings that netted into $600,000 or $700,000 was through your effort, Kurt. It wouldn't have been done any other way, and you dug into this, and I really appreciate that. And the owners, thank you for that.
Well, yeah, I'm an owner too, so
yeah. But that savings, the good news, but you shared that 600, 700 with 460 of the rest of it.
So if I may, I want to add that we're starting the process for putting together the next fiscal year budget, and from the building committee, we're going to propose some work. So we see an opportunity, possibly. I just mentioned the ratings. The second best one is semi-wind resistive, and citizens have what they call the UL Class 90 rule. In short, there might be an opportunity for the other garden buildings, G1 through 4 and G6, to redo the roofs, and with the new roof getting the UL Class 90 rating, which would improve its wind resistance rating from masonry to semi-wind resistive. So there's some potential savings that might still be out there. It's going to take a little more effort to get there. But what we want to do in the next fiscal year is at least do like an engineering feasibility study and some front-end engineering to see if that's possible, how much it would cost, and to see if we can really pin down what the savings might be to build a business case to move forward with that project. But the reserve study that was just completed gave another 3 or 4 years of life for the tile. They're over 20 years old now, so there is some opportunity to look at those. Some of them did suffer some damage when Hurricane Ian came through, so we think that makes sense. There's a good case to take on that work.
So the good news is work never stops. This board and your committee and you in particular are very proactive, and we're looking at everything as we move forward to what we call harden the buildings for the hurricanes, with talking about hurricane glass and shutters and new front doors and stuff like that. I know there's a lot coming at us right now, but these are the things that Kurt's working on behind the scenes that most owners aren't exposed to, and that's why I wanted to do this video and tell a good news story in terms of where we are. So this is the beginning of a journey. It's not the end of the journey. This journey so far has netted a savings of $1 million, and we're working hard to bring more through here. So wanted to share this story. Kurt, I want to thank you for all the work you do around here. I enjoy working with you. We recently asked the committee chairman to submit their budget requests for the new budget year, and I've never seen one so thorough that Kurt did. I enjoyed going through that kind of stuff. So I always close with this. My name is Mike Renick. I leave you with my personal cell. I'll do that, 941-400-8735. But if you want to understand further what Kurt is talking about, we'll get him involved. He's the expert with this. And it's really a pleasure to work with directors that are as involved and invest the kind of time that you do, Kurt. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.